Operator syndrome number 47. We're still in Mosul 2008 summer. Where the cliffhanger we left it off on was I will describe for you sort of the transition and the tactic, broadly speaking, the transition and the tactics. So to summarize, when we first got there, um, we did everything right. Did everything the way we were trained. Nothing too crazy, um, but it was a little heavy-handed for the environment. And over the course of that, you know, 3, 4 months, whatever it was, going out multiple times a night, um, between two and I said at our height was 12 in one night, I believe. Again, the usual disclaimers out there about it being a long time ago. That our tactics would change based on what we experienced, what other special operation forces experienced, and the lessons learned that were exchanged amongst us. So what that looked like was, I described us breaching, our first ones, go explosive, go loud at the front gate, at the front door, right? Establish dominance,
Yeah.
through noise at the beginning and then clearing. Well, we started to move to where actually, no, we don't want you. It's nighttime. It's safe to assume you're sleeping or you're droning. It's the middle of the night. And actually, we don't want to make a bunch of noise. So we're not going to go explosive. Um, we're going to use tools available to us to access your house in a way that allows you to continue to sleep until the last moment.
Hmm.
So, um, some of that included, again, not trying to get into specifics, although this is a long time ago. Um, broadly speaking, again, I just said we had tools available to us that could help us, breach. I will say mechanically breach in a way that wasn't very noisy.
Hmm.
Um, and I had mentioned that we took advantage instead of looking at sort of like a okay, well, you have to come in from the ground floor, right? There were options available to us, so we would make use of the vertical space, and we started to do a decent amount of climbing,
Hmm.
or like urban climbing. Um, and the way it just worked out was in each of the assault squads, you had a team leader that basically would end up spending a lot of time climbing walls, climbing, the sides of buildings. And for my squad, I happened to be the guy that sort of naturally came to. Now we had been using ladders for a
Hmm.
while now, right? Assault ladders. Um, but once you climb a ladder, it's not that crazy to think, okay, well, what's the next step? We just keep going, right?
Hmm.
So, in fact, to the point where, sort of midway through the deployment, I ended up having to modify my kit to allow me to climb better.
Yeah.
So, in 2008, sort of the the cool guy kit style of the time was you had a plate carrier with a cummerbund. For those who don't know, a cummerbund is a plate carrier is the thing that holds your plates. I'm sorry, that's not a good definition, but it holds your ballistic plates to the front and the back. A cummerbund would just be these, I guess segments of nylon,
Hmm.
military nylon that sort of wrap around your sides and then connect in the front. And then we would have our magazines, magazines being those things that held our rounds, our ammo, sort of in these pouches around your waist. So it was kind of like having like this tire around your midsection of ammo, grenades, first aid kits, or all that type of stuff. But that wasn't very conducive to climbing. So
Yeah.
I had actually had to like clean most of the stuff off the front of my kit and like rearrange my magazine pouches in a way that I could still access them if I'm on a ladder or if I'm scaling, the side of a building. And
Sure.
then, but also have it relatively clean so I could keep my center of gravity close up against the surface I was climbing. And this was just sort of OJT. I had not attended any type of climbing course, and this wasn't complicated climbing. I don't want to
Right.
oversell this. This was not like rappel and belay.
Alex Honnold climbing Yosemite.
Exactly. Exactly. I think we had a grappling hook though. I don't remember
Yeah.
ever using it, but it's not even that. So don't let me tell you that what I was doing, what we were doing was too cool. It was just taking advantage of options that were available to us.
Yeah.
And most of the time that was coming over walls, but sometimes it included scaling the sides of buildings because depending on the layout, in that part of the world, having like terraced sort of architecture is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Balconies are not uncommon. Um, Being able to scale building to building is not uncommon. Either just the way it's laid out or with the assistance of a ladder or some other type of tool. So we started to do a lot of that. Um, um, so, in terms of the tactics of getting in, now we were quieter. Now we were showing, now we weren't just breaching the front door or the back door, and moving from there. Now we're kind of showing up in unexpected places and letting ourselves in, right?
Hmm.
While people are sleeping. Um, um, Also, so that was the big part, and our goal then was less like boom, bang this room, okay, go to the next room, go to the next one.
Hmm.
Now it was like, how far can we get into the house? How
Yeah.
far and how many of us can get into this house before anyone even figures out that we're here? With the ultimate goal of finding, again, for the raids we were doing, we're looking for a specific person and with the goal of getting to that person and no shit waking them up.
Right.
And I'll tell a funny story about that. But that became our goal then. Whereas at the beginning it was like boom, 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 boom.
Hmm.
Um, Also, just to sort of round out this sort of section, again, where the old school style of room clearing was get as many guns in the room, points of domination, meaning, clearing spaces and then, dominating the inside the room to make sure you have overwhelming force, right? That overmatch now became more of, well, we don't need to have four guys in that room. We may not even need two guys.
Yeah.
So now they were like, okay, if you are, if we can trust you, that meant if you were a tab. If you were a tab, right, you could one man clear a room
Yeah.
because the other piece was, again, this isn't Afghanistan anymore. It's not three big mud rooms. Now it's a modern, multiple rooms. It could be 10 rooms in a house.
Right.
We don't have time. It slows us down to jam four guys in there.
Sure.
So, and 95% of the time, there's not even anyone in a room.
Yeah.
So now it became, if you're a tab, you can do a one man clear. We were like, and for Rangers, it was like, oh shit, okay, we're graduating to like the next level here, the next style of clearing. Um, so that was a thing we started to do that made us faster and more efficient and quieter. It's quieter to have one guy clear a room versus jam four guys in there. And then also, it's basically common nowadays, but this was the transition to pieing off a room,
Mhm.
um, which is to say, like, to take advantage of the angles before you even get into a room to clear as much of it as you can.
Mhm.
Basically, you're just peeping inside the room, you're kind of doing a sweep, and then you clear the last bits of the room that you can't see.
Yeah.
So that's when this again nowadays that's like duh, old man. But back
Yeah.
then we were
Right.
still doing like we
Sure.
were still doing it old school.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, and then yeah, the last part, and then I'll send it to you if you had any question or any
Mhm.
comment. Was again the ultimate goal was to get in there and to wake someone and to literally wake up the guy you're looking for. And more often than not, this is summertime, 2008. That guy's on the roof sleeping because
Mhm.
that's sort of their style in that part of the world. Um, there is like a lot of lore, and we even had it where we were and I've heard other units and other people talk about like, yeah, like we got to the place and then like, I woke the guy up, like I put my hand on his mouth and like woke him
Mhm.
up. And I remember hearing that story, and then I tried to do that once. So like we clear the house, we clear the house, we get up to the roof, there's a man, military age male. That's got to be the dude. I'm like, all right, here we go. It's my chance to be like the cool dude. I come up to him. put my hand on him, and then his eyes open up wide, and he freaks out, and he's like, then he's screaming and fighting with me because of course, why wouldn't you, right?
Right.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you freak out? Why wouldn't you? And then I'm wrestling with this dude on the roof. Finally we get him like wrapped up, but that did not go how like everyone
Yeah.
else's cool guy story went. So I'll say I didn't pull it off, but I gave it the good attempt. But so that's how it changed over the course of that deployment.
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, some of it is like you said, yeah, duh. To clear a room, by looking at the sector you can see, and then closing off the rest of it when you enter. Yeah, the old school was like barrels, guys clearing corners and dropping down on top, and it was kind of a cluster. Um, yeah, and it's one thing if you're going after a time sensitive hostage that you think may be killed or hurt, but going after people you're going after in Iraq and Afghanistan is not doesn't make a lot of sense to do it that way.
Hmm.
And that has really been a big shift since the day I was in. A lot of, boy, man, whole Copernican revolution. And did you find that getting to the high ground first also gave you, how do you say it, more kinetic energy to clear down? I mean, if you did get into, you always would prefer to fight down rather than fighting up. It's just a thing anywhere almost. Not always possible, but
Yeah, I'll say for us and what we were doing that deployment, it I can't think of a there may have been a handful of times where we had access to the roof. Usually
Mhm.
that's by adjacent buildings. And
Yeah,
so you could kind of sort of do that. I do
yeah.
remember that a handful of times, not very many times.
Okay.
Most of the climbing was to enable just to get the rest of the force in there,
Right.
either ground force. So it was pretty much, your standard clearing. It was just taking advantage of the different
Yeah.
access points access
Gotcha.
points to let in the rest of the force. Yeah.
I can
But
follow this. And if it sounds sometimes like we're talking kind of in code, we just don't want to give away tactics that we're using. I mean, we didn't, I mean, you're not allowed to do that, but it it can compromise guys, It-
the
anybody
yeah
can
the,
be watching this YouTube video from anywhere.
yeah for 99% of the audience, the stuff we leave out probably doesn't even add that much for your understanding, but for
Yeah.
the the bad guy, it may help them out. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah. So we that was the in terms of evolving the way we work. That was a huge deployment for that,
Hmm.
and that was fun. That part was fun, right? It's fun whenever people may not believe this, but like clearing like a shoot house, like you can only do it so many times before it becomes boring. I'm sorry, I'll
Yeah.
say it. Like
Yeah.
it looks sexy in the pictures and the videos and the recruiting ads, but you do that enough times, it gets old. And
Yeah.
so to be in the middle of a combat rotation and to evolve in at the speed of war, so to
Hmm.
speak, it was pretty cool to be like, wow,
Yeah.
this makes a lot more sense. Wow, we're so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Um, like, yeah, why should we wake everyone up? Yeah, I come to a room that's just full of clearly women and children sleeping. Do we need to wake them up right this second? Like right this second, do we need to? Or is it more important we beat feet to the roof to where the guys are who we know we want to talk to, right?
Yeah.
It's like starting to use some common sense. And I
Yep.
and the only people we can thank for that, honestly and truly, is the tier one guys who were pioneering those
Uh-huh.
techniques and then sending it down to the rest of us to keep us alive. So, all
Yeah.
props to them.
Sometimes you have to use explosive breaching. There's just no other way around it.
Mhm.
But it's also really dangerous, not just for potential civilians on the other side of the door, but also for the operators. Things can go sideways with those things. Not least the fact that we're learning now how sensitive our brains are. They're taking, gosh, this is a tangent, but yeah, I was talking to a buddy, an ex SEAL buddy here in Kentucky, and he was like, "Man, have you had your hey, you had an MRI of your head. And I'm like, well, I never took any IEDs or any big blasts. He goes, how many times did you breach doors with explosives? And I was like, God, hundreds. In training and in being an assault training leader, standing right next to guys in the stack, making sure everything was going right. I'm like, I never even thought of that. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I
yeah.
mean, no,
Yeah.
it, I mean, there's overpressure associated with just shooting a rifle.
Oh
Like just
yeah.
going to the range and shooting your M4 or whatever you've got. Like there's overpressure associated with that. And over time, as we've learned, it's something that accumulates. It stacks up
Hmm.
on it on itself. So
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't necessarily. It's not something that necessarily ebbs. It's like it'll continue to accumulate over time.
Yeah.
And for units that get a little extra money, a little extra funding, and are expected to go out there and shoot more, well, okay, well then there it is, compounding.
Right.
um, I mentioned it before, but um, you know, moving to those tactics, um, did wonders for, again, two different battlefields. Afghanistan, I got it. It's called Global War on Terror in terms of
Hmm.
like the campaign medals you get, but they're two different things. They had no clue what was going on in either one. So the styles were different. But that said, um, like I do believe in my heart and in my gut that transitioning to that style of clearing, that style of raiding,
Hmm.
and actually, it even goes a step further, and I'll talk about that after this. But that style of rating made us more effective, and it reduced the amount of chances that the enemy had to even try to shoot at us. Right? If they're asleep and you're on top of
Hmm.
them, like you're not that guy's not going to get to his gun to shoot to duke it out with you. He's just not. And on plenty of our objectives, we found, we found the cache, of AKs. We found the explosives. These were not good guys. There were
Right.
plenty of bad dudes who, given the opportunity, would duke it out with us. Would
Right.
stand in a stairwell and spray down at us while we're trying to get up there. Um, so, so I believe those tactics saved us from a lot of encounters, kinetic encounters with the
Hmm.
enemy. So all that to say, I don't remember there are only a couple moments where I was around you know, to experience, enemy. I'll just say gunfire, uh, gunfire in general. Um, uh, I'm trying to think about where I want to talk about call outs. We'll talk about it when I talk about Red. So the first one, it's kind of comical, sort of, if you're in the business. But so I remember the first time got shot at like close, like, oh, here we go, hit the deck, right? Like get ready to return fire. So this one was actually a helicopter assault force mission. So we're riding in the Black Hawks. It was actually an offset infill. So they put us out in the desert somewhere, and we walked into this town. Um, so that was kind of comforting. Like, hey, this is like Afghanistan. So we're walking into this town again. It's or a village, whatever it was. It's got the lights, streets, clean, modern, whatever. And we're walking up. As we're walking up to this town, the dogs are going wild. Um, and we're walking up around the outskirts of like I don't even know how you would describe it. We're walking up to like this empty lot, maybe kind of like an industrial lot. It's got some like shipping containers. It's got some like trash ditches, all this kind of stuff. But like on the other side of this place was the town. The town started a street, and then we'd follow it to wherever we wanted to go. So we're walking up towards it. I don't remember where I was. I was towards the front in the order of movement. I don't know that we were the first squad, but we're walking up and they've got street lights. I feel like I remember street lights. We're nods down, we're walking in, and then like we're to start taking fire, close fire, accurate fire coming at us. And now we're reacting to contact. So um, the guys in front of us, hit the ground or like go up to the shipping containers to take cover. And then it's kind of like a wave splitting in front of you. So like all the guys that were ahead of me The shots start coming, and you're hearing the snap, snap, snap. So it's like, oh shit! And then the guys in front of me split, and they take all the good cover.
Of course.
And then I felt like it was just me staring down, and it was an alleyway right in front of us where it was coming from. And so everybody splits, and I'm just sort of there like the dummy. And I'm like the next guy. It is nothing between me and this alleyway where it's coming from. And I notice ahead of me, there's like it's like a dit. You could almost call it like a bomb crater. This is Iraq. Maybe it was a bomb
Yeah.
crater. I don't know, but some kind of crater like a terrain feature. And so I dive for that, and I get there, and I'm pointing out, and we're sitting there. We're like, "What's going on? Okay, contact that alley in front of us." But we don't shoot. We're not shooting back. And I'm like, "Okay, we're not shooting back. What's up here?" And there was just like this feeling, we could have shot back. Maybe we should have shot back, but we didn't. We didn't shoot back. We are pretty disciplined, and we're
Mhm.
watching. We're like, "Where are they? I don't see them." And then we're looking, and then I see like line abreast, like these dudes walking down the street, like,
Coming
kinda
toward you?
yeah,
Yeah.
coming down the alley, coming right towards us,
Huh.
and they're strolling, and they're, like, in a line. I'm like, "Oh,
Hmm.
okay, what is this? I haven't seen this before," and it just felt off, and, um, and we didn't shoot back, but they had, like, shot at us a couple times. By the time we could see them, we were like, "Okay, we think we know what this is," and it was, like, basically like the neighborhood watch. So, like, in this village, they hated the insurgents. They were tired of, like, insurgents coming around, screwing up their town, blowing people up and shit like that. And at nighttime, some of the men from the village, um, and when I say village, don't think Afghan village. Like, these are like dudes, again, a more like Western style dress and homes, like a small town, whatever you want to call it. They are toting AKs, and they're coming to figure. They heard the commotion. And they thought that we were like insurgents coming in to bury IEDs or
Yeah.
kidnap people, do criminal activity, whatever. Um, but they showed up, and like we see them. We didn't return fire. They came up. They're like, "Oh, Americans. All right, cool." They're like, "Cool," and we, like, stand up, brush ourselves off, and then they end up and then we talk to them, and then they end up escorting us to the Target.
Oh, no kidding. What hilarious.
End up escorting us.
Block
Uh,
watch is wide awake.
that's the closest shave I personally had was, was almost getting murked by the neighborhood watch coming
Yeah.
in. um, because for obvious reasons we don't we'll communicate with the
Yeah.
U.S. or maybe even the Iraqi government at the time to let them know that, hey, we're gonna have some more guys rooting around that area, but you were never gonna tell the neighborhood watch because in that time you just never knew who was who. But
Right.
these guys were, you could just tell by the vibe. Like when
Mhm.
when they realized it was us, they were all about us, and that was really cool to
Mhm.
see. That was really cool to see and feel. And walking around in the streets at night at that time, there were a lot of hazards
Oh,
because it's one thing to be in an up armored vehicle and be at risk of IEDs, but if you're doing an offset infill and then you're walking into town, you don't know what you could do, what you could trip. Um, one of the things we had to learn in some of the earlier missions were, we'd be if we did if we were walking around, sometimes there'd be garden hoses like
mhm.
stretched out in the street or stretched out across the street, and we had to be told like, do not step on those because do not step on those because that could be a trigger for an IED,
Yeah,
right? Like they could
for sure.
have like wires running across, and then it could be like you could
Connects and
close, yeah, you could close,
the
the
circuit.
circuit and
Yeah.
then kill us all. So
Right.
like, my God, like when the garden hoses can kill you, like, right, that makes you real nervous.
Yeah,
So
oh, yeah, you think.
so, to see those guys, and it's just weird. You're not expecting it, right? And to see guys with guns, you're like, "Hey, Americans, hey, cool. Hey,
Yeah.
sorry for almost killing you, but hey, where you guys going? Oh yeah, I know that house. Let's go down that way." So, um, so yeah. Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about was a guy that we lost, actually. So he wasn't in my platoon. He was in our sister platoon. He was in third platoon, BCO, that were operating with us there. Um, So on this night, it was a big deal. This mission was a big deal. Um, a lot of planning beforehand. A lot of our other missions were TSTs, time sensitive targets. Hey, Intel says bad guy here, go collect them up. Or hey, this person is associated with a bad guy, go collect them up. We want to talk to them. But I remember for this one, there was a lot more planning ahead of time because we knew it was like a bad dude. So we're
Yeah.
always looking for bad guys, right? That's, in sort of like the order, the JSOC target
Mhm.
packages. They got a little bit more meat on them than maybe what conventional dudes operate with, and so on and so forth. And so, since it's two Ranger platoons representing JSOC up there during that summer, during that deployment, so it fell to us. There was a bigger named guy. I can't remember what he did, right? Some bad dude, IEDs, facilitation, who knows? I don't know. And I
Right.
don't know his name. Some shithead. So, but third platoon, we had two targets of interest, and they were about like maybe like a block or two away from each other. Third platoon was going to hit one, we were going to hit the other, and we're going to do it simultaneously. So I remember there was like big planning beforehand, all come together. Um, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. So I'll say it was going to be a big mission because I want to talk about um, his whole name's William Patrick Rudd, but in the company his name was Ricky. Um, so again, he was in the other platoon. He was in third platoon. Um, I was. I got to explain a little bit about like again the environment in at least a ranger company. Um, so I've described before how it's tough being a private. When you're a new guy
Yeah.
in the Ranger Regiment, you're just absolute dog shit. You're nothing. You're just a liability until you can prove yourself. So you are, it's very much like when you're a private, you are very much just trying to survive, but it
Mhm.
is very much like a predator prey type environment. Like you're always on the lookout for the tabs who are going to like make your day miserable. And 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 so sort of by default, at least for me, like any tab was danger, right? Like don't fuck up. There's a tab around, don't fuck up around that person. All right. Don't stand out too much, right? Just keep your head
Oh yeah.
down, do your fucking job, like survive this moment. And when tabs were around, and tabs are different. Some tabs are cool, some tabs are assholes,
Yeah.
just like human beings in general, except that the ones that are assholes have a hell of a lot more authority over you than in everyday civilian life. So, but for tabs from other platoons, you were especially leery. Leery, is that the
Wary.
right?
Yeah. Leery
Weary,
or
weary,
wary.
either
Wary.
or, whatever one's better. Um, and so my general impression of Ricky was like I hate to say it, but I almost like for no reason didn't like him. And I hate to say that, but it's the honest truth.
Yeah.
He never said anything to me. He never did anything to me, but just sort of, again, I hate to say it, just sort of his face is one of those things where I was just like, again, in my head, I'm like, that's danger. He's a tab from a platoon, from a different platoon. And like, and so in my head, it just kind of concocted this reason why I didn't like this guy.
Was it body language more or less? Just a smirk, just a
I don't know what it was, but it
yeah.
was unearned. It was
I
unearned. And um and um and so and by the way, like there's competition between platoons, like it's almost like being in a gang. Like
yeah.
if you roll into third platoon space, they'll ball you up. They'll tap you out. They'll put you in a chokehold and teach you a lesson for rolling
Yeah.
into their AO, right? That's the environment. So it kind of breeds a sort of weird thing. Anywho, so didn't like him. Anyway, when I first showed up, because he was already a tab by then. Um, so I get my tab, I do my deployments. Boom, we're in Mosul. Ricky's there, and the other guys from third platoon. Now it's a little bit different. Like I went to Rangers. I was privates with. I went to Ranger school with some of the guys in third platoon. I love them. They're great guys. My sort of uh, aperture is opened a little bit more. Um, while we were there in Mosul one day, I'm I'm hanging out in front of my chew, like my living space, and Ricky comes up, and at first I'm like, oh, what the fuck's going on here? And he comes up and he's like, hey, are your guys doing anything whenever you guys first, are your privates doing anything when they first wake up? And I was like, they're just doing the regular, getting ready, doing whatever. And I'm sort of guarded because I don't know what he's coming at me with. He's like, hey, our privates have been taking out the trash every day. Can we get on like some sort of rotation here? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. We can do that. It's not a problem, right? I mean, they're privates. I don't care, right? So I'm a tab. I'm gonna be like, yeah, of course, our privates can clean up the trash. Sorry, man. Sorry, I just broke my chair. They're like, of course, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll use them for that too. But he came to me respectfully. He was very pleasant.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily assumed. We're all in our early 20s, a lot of testosterone, type A
Mhm.
personalities. Like plenty of other dudes may have come up and said, "Hey, your lazy privates don't do shit. Like
Yeah.
they need to take out the trash. They need to." But no, he's very cordial. He's like, "Hey, blah blah blah." And in the moment I had that interaction with him, I felt like a piece of shit. I was like, God, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He's a really nice guy. And I just felt, I was like, damn it. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make that mistake again. And that's what I said to myself. And then, and again, we're in Mosul, and, a couple more interactions. I'm not saying him and I became best friends, but like a couple more interact. If I see him around, like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. Um, the day of that big mission, the more we're doing vampire hours, so we operate at night. So we wake up at dusk, Iraqi time. So we wake up, and what that means is like we eat dinner for breakfast.
Yeah. Right.
that night, that night they were serving up chicken, and sometimes you eat in the chow hall. Sometimes we like to grab our food and like eat it in our space. We got TVs in there. We're living it up pretty good. Um, he's walking down. I'm walking up to go get food. He's walking down. I'm like, hey, what do we got? He's like, it's chicken. We got chicken. And he said in a pleasant way. He's being like sarcastic. He's like, "It's chicken.
Mhm.
But that's my last interaction with him. Last thing, we ever talked about. Last thing he ever said to me is, it's chicken,
Yeah.
you know? So we do that raid that night. Like I said, we're a couple blocks away. We're doing our thing. You know, and we're in a part of town with some big freaking houses. I mean, these are some even by American standards. These are huge freaking
Yeah, like
houses.
mansion kind of.
Yeah, they're basically mansions.
Yeah.
We're doing our thing. We're clearing. We're sweating. We're doing our thing, and then we hear it starting to pop off in the distance. Pop, 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 pop. Like, what's going on? What's going on over there? And starting to get the word in. They're like, "Hey, third platoon's taking contact." A little while later, third platoon's got some guys hit. I'm like, oh fuck.
Oh boy.
Like, do we need to go over there? What's going on? And and that's a tough position to be in when you can hear it.
Oh,
You know, it's not like it's tough no matter what. If you're sitting
no.
in the talk, if you're back home in the U.S., but we can hear it going down over there.
Yeah.
Um, I'll tell a little bit about their story. They set up on the house. They go in. The guys say as soon as they came in the bottom floor, the front entrance, they were like they knew something was wrong. They could feel it. They could feel it in the air that something was wrong in there. And and then two, three dudes, I can't remember how many, but dudes in there start shooting at our guys, blowing themselves up. Uh, a guy I'd gone to Ranger school with, the guy from third platoon that I would say the closest to. We weren't best friends, but a guy that I'd spent a decent amount of time with suffering. So right, so
Hmm.
like a super acquaintance, kind of a friend. But he got shot in the ass, but Guys got shot. I think they had like 3, 4 guys get shot. Actually, I think 2 guys got shot in the ass on that objective, I think.
Yeah,
But
did they have a couple a suicide bomber or two?
I believe what killed Ricky was a suicide, was someone with an
That
S vest.
I'll never not piss me off. I don't know what it is. It's just like, come on, fight like.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
So they didn't flex us over there. Um, they got it handled, you know. But we're running out of time here. But um, we were just in this weird space. We knew they took contact. We knew guys were at least hurt, but they kept sending us out on follow-ons. So we left our building. We didn't go over to them because they had it handled, but we were hitting 1 or 2 more houses, and a really strange, very like catch 22 thing happened. Like for some reason, I don't know who made the call, but they were like, hey, let's do like platoon pictures. We were like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like a very odd
yeah,
thing to do because at that point, I would think that leadership knew that Ricky was dead, that he'd been killed. Maybe not. I don't know.
yeah,
But it's another one of those things. It's that even in the Rangers, like stupid military shit happens.
yeah.
Um, but 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 we got back. By the time we get back, they keep sending us some follow-ons. It's like middle of the day by the time we get back. We get off our strikers, and the I think it's like the battalion commander is there. Some bigwig. At least the company, maybe it's just the company commander, but they pull us in. They say, "Hey, horseshoe around me." We're like, "Oh fuck, what's going on?" He says, "Hey, Ricky's dead." We're like, "Damn." And that was tough. But they needed us to go back out to hit another house.
God,
So
that's a
they tell us
long
Ricky's dead, you know, refit,
carry on.
refit, jump in the strikers, and then we go back out for a few more hours that day, chasing down whatever leads came out of that night. Didn't find anything, didn't get any more contact, but yeah, that was uh that was the big gunfight, that deployment, and we lost Ricky in it. So, and he's from I don't remember the exact town, but he's from some relatively large town in eastern Kentucky. I think eastern Kentucky down by the Tennessee border. I don't know
Yeah,
what
maybe
town's in it.
Corbin or London, one of those.
Can't remember, but
Yeah, well, here's to Ricky. And
yeah.
at least, you were on a good rapport. The weirdness was gone,
Other than the
they don't,
guilt. Yeah,
yeah.
other than the guilt. But
Well,
yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, the guilt, yeah. But you knew he was a good guy. He knew you were a good guy, and
Hmm.
just yeah, yeah. But lesson learned, man.
Lesson learned still, actually. Uh Sorry to cut it off, but we're out of time. Appreciate you all listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Thanks.